This week on Arizona Illustrated, a retrospective over 70 years in the making.
This person really knows how to paint. I'm like, well, how do we not know who this is?
A place striving to change the culture of care.
It's a place to come and live and continue with what you're doing in life.
A look back at U of A's Hummingbird phenomenon.
I keep a browser up at all times with the camera so I can keep an eye on them.
And Big Blue leaves Tucson in 1988. Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. Longtime Tucsonan Robert Barber is a veteran of World War II, and he taught sixth graders in TUSD for over 30 years. Now, this sounds like a life well lived, and indeed it is. But when two curators from Tucson's Museum of Contemporary Art swung open the door to Barber's garage in 2013, they revealed that there was a whole lot more to Mr. Barber.
I think we live in a world where it seems like, for many reasons, that everything is exposed. And so I think there's an extra pleasure when it turns out like not everything is known at all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this very, very special occasion. It has been such an extraordinary privilege for our institution to get to know Robert Barber and his work. And truly,
My formula for living so long is to ride a bicycle. I ride a bicycle every morning before I do anything else. I have favorite, what do you call those, dumpsters that I dig in. Here's a glove that's kind of interesting. Oh, this stuff. So I see something that looks like an interesting shape. That's where it starts, regardless of what it is. My name is Robert Barber. I'm 92 and a half years old, and I'm an artist.
there were these two small yellow paintings, and I kind of ran over and looked at them because they just, the quality of the paint surface, and I'm looking carefully and I'm thinking, this is great, this painting's fantastic, and this person really knows how to paint. I'm like, well, how do we not know who this is? And I look and it says Tucson. I'm like, this person is in Tucson. Who are they? We have to find them. And then I look at the date that he was born, and I'm doing the math, and I'm thinking, he's 90, he was 91 years old. And I turn around to call for Jocko, and at the same moment that I had stopped in my tracks, Jocko also stopped in his tracks and, noticed the same thing.
I've had several shows in Minneapolis back around in the 50s. That's when I was getting my bachelor and master's degree in painting at the University of Minnesota.
So you were actively getting your work out there and it was being seen.
Right, but it would go out and then come back. So when Anne Marie and Jocko came over, I said, fortunately, I've never sold anything, so you have plenty of stuff to look at. Some more car parts. They're all mixed up, they're not organized. Tools, more tools. Then I had a relapse and then did some more letters. I did a whole series of letters.
On one studio visit, I was out trimming trees because we had to bring the works out into the yard, into the light, just to see what we were looking at. So there was a lot of sort of archaeology and teasing out. And
It was like an archaeological dig.
a lot of it was sort of
Hard to look
tightly
at.
packed in a small studio. So, I think we left overwhelmed.
Many people wonder how you were able to do so much art. Like, you had a full-time job and a family.
I work fast.
That was a good answer. Like when you were teaching, were you drawing like at the desk in the class?
No, I had the kids doing the drawing. I never stopped doing artwork of one kind or another, and then I married a girl I met in art school, and she was the same way. We both, all of our married lives, kept doing our artwork. And she was just as prolific as I was, and had more commercial success than I did, but we were never jealous of each other's art. We were our biggest fans. I thought of her as being Tucson's Matisse, and she thought I was Tucson's Picasso. It's difficult for me to talk about my wife, but if it wasn't for her, half the things that I did would have disappeared. She always managed to gather up these things and wrap them and label them and store them away. We're just discovering them now.
The entire body of work is largely intact. It's an unprecedented situation to be able to sort of art historically look at the whole thing and start to tell some stories, because usually an artist will have a career and they'll sell work and their show work and their work will be distributed. He's still making work every single day, and it's like a perfectly intact trove of an entire lifetime of art productions. We were just speechless and a little breathless, frankly. And we immediately, as soon as we left, we knew we were going to offer him a retrospective and hope that he said yes, and he did.
Being rejected again and again and again. I had no expectations of even exhibiting someplace.
The retrospective is a tiny fraction of Robert's work. I would put it at 1% or less.
He's a phenomenal painter. He was trained properly at a moment in time in art school where you really learned sort of old master techniques and you learned how to build up the surface of a canvas. On the abstract works back here, these aren't single applications of a layer of paint on canvas. There are probably 100 paintings living underneath the surface of that painting. And when you take a cross-section of a painting, you realize just how complex. These are not flat surfaces. They're really well built up.
Unbelievable. I'd never seen my artwork in an environment like that.
His art is great, but it's almost just as much about how he went about, like, he figured out a way to make a living, he raised a family, and that didn't stop him from this pursuit. And it sounds like a cliche, but it was like he was doing it for the right reasons. And I think that's incredibly meaningful. He's a living embodiment of it, kind of meshing of art and life.
You start out to paint a masterpiece. I don't know of anyone who wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I guess I'll paint a ho-hum average piece of art today. But of course you never attain the goal you set out. I wish my wife was here to enjoy it with me. I think of her every day and talk to her every day. She would say it's about time he gets the recognition he deserves. I think that's what she'd say. No, never give it up forever. I still think about the one I'm gonna do tomorrow.
Henry David Thoreau wrote, "None are so old as those who have outlived enthusiasm." Our next story is about a place and its effort to create a living space for elders where independence, dignity, and self-empowerment are the pathway to an enthusiastic life worth living.
The United States has about 45 million people who are 65 years old or older, and their numbers are rising rapidly. Many of these residents are also low income, and finding an affordable place to live can be very difficult, especially if they should no longer be alone. Such was the case with Edna Coyle.
I didn't mind living by myself, but my doctor and my family decided that I really shouldn't be by myself. Sometimes I really miss my house, but I've been here for so long. This is my home now.
Edna Coyle has been a resident at St. Luke's home at Midtown Tucson for 20 years. St. Luke's is a not-for-profit organization for people with limited means, but who are still able to get around and do not need special medical attention. The home provides supervisory care, 3 meals a day, and help with the laundry, for example, but the elders are pretty much independent. There are also social programs and events where people can forge new friendships and stay active.
You just feel like talking to somebody, you just find somebody who's around all the time, you know. And if you don't feel like talking to anybody, you come in your room.
In addition to the social activities, the facility has instituted a philosophy known as the Eden Alternative.
Can you do it?
I don't know yet.
Oh,
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Beverly Heasley is the executive director at the home.
Eden Alternative is about creating a place, a habitat, where elders can continue to grow. It's not a place to come and die. It's a place to come and live and continue with what you're doing in life.
As part of the Eden Alternative, the elders at this location participate in the decision-making process about policies and programs. They also interact with other generations from the community at large. School children often visit and mingle with the residents, establishing new relationships.
Come again sometime. I know, but I need to talk. Just so you know. Good. I like your hair. She's a sweetie.
The Arizona Center on Aging at the University of Arizona is also involved in cooperative efforts with St. Luke's, making it the first academic Eden Model assisted living facility in the nation.
We think it's very important that healthcare professionals are trained to work with elders. So we've linked up with the College of Nursing, the College of Pharmacy, the College of Medicine, Public Health. We also have dental assistants from our junior college, legal and other students who join in and have clinical encounters at St. Luke's home. And it's all about the elders teaching the students and the students teaching the elders.
This cooperative effort to train people is motivated in part by the growing need for healthcare professionals who are trained to work with elders in or out of affordable living facilities. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, there will be more than 70 million people who are 65 or older by 2030. That is more than twice the amount in the year 2000.
We could use in Tucson probably 6 St. Luke's homes.
Another aspect of the Eden Alternative is subtle and inconspicuous. Living, breathing plants replace fake ones. The plants are placed throughout the interior of the home and provide a growing canopy outside.
Dr. Bill Thomas, who started the Eden Alternative, talked about the studies that were done with NASA and that it was important to have live plants, not fake plants. And that's what's part of what's so beautiful in our gardens. And a tagline of the Eden Alternative is, it's better to live in a garden. You think she'll ever learn to say I love you?
The plants are being joined by a growing collection of animals that are taking up residence under this roof. They bring their own color and characteristics to the community's makeup. For Dave Doherty, the chance to keep a small pet in his room has been a blessing.
Buddy has changed my life. I've always been kind of a rough character, you know, not tough, but just kind of upset all the time and angry. And he has changed that. What it's about is taking care of something, a living thing, and it gets you out of yourself to where you ain't all up in yourself going nuts. Like, buddy, you're a good boy.
Everybody gets a kick out of the birds. They really do. And Dana has a little chihuahua that he brought with him, but it's like this, you know, tiny thing.
Hello. Having him here is a wonderful thing because I didn't want to spend the rest of my life without him. He's a big asset. I'm welcome in anyone's room as long as I bring him along. He's like the mascot for the whole group.
Resident David Squires is a longtime Tucson DJ, better known as Kid Squid to listeners of community radio station KXEI. Squires shares his knowledge of music and movies by hosting a weekly event for fellow residents.
Truly one of the loves of my life. My show's called Mystery Jukebox because you never know what I'm going to play next. Long Way to Tipperary.
Oh, that's a good one.
This one's from World War I.
It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go.
I think the more you appreciate music, the more you appreciate the human condition, and more tolerant you are, you know, to people, because it's a universal language.
My wife and I both had uncles that served in France. Both got gas.
Oh.
And whenever I hear that song, I always think of my Uncle Tony.
I tell you what, everyone has a story, lots of stories. And the older folks really appreciate it when you listen to them. You know, they just light up. Chattanooga choo-choo.
Pardon me, boy, is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Yes, yes.
Residents say they do feel brighter ever since the Eden Alternative was implemented, which is part of an ongoing evolution at St. Luke's during the last century. An Episcopalian reverend established the home north of downtown Tucson in the early 1900s to assist young men with tuberculosis who could not afford their medical care. The population's demographics have changed over the decades, from a men's facility to a home for women to co-ed housing. However, volunteers such as Ruth Campbell say the emphasis continues to focus on financially needy residents.
I think it's very gratifying. I think on the other hand too, it's also humbling because many of these people have held full-time jobs, have had families and wonderful lives, and not everybody ends up with a good retirement at the end and need a special kind of environment.
People are friendly and you have your own things around you, and it's really homey, and I love that about this place. 20 years worth.
Like what you see on Arizona Illustrated? Visit our webpage at azpm.org to watch and share videos from this episode. You'll also find stories from future programs, an easy way to submit your own story idea, an archive of past episodes of Arizona Illustrated, and you'll find everything you need to stay connected with public broadcasting in Southern Arizona. azpm.org. 1 year ago this month, the U of A campus community became focused on a cable hanging precariously from a new building. An annual spectacle was playing out right in front of our very eyes, and then the eyes of the world. While students were away for the summer, crews at the University of Arizona were hard at work, putting the finishing touches on the new Environment and Natural Resources building for the upcoming school year. Installing wireless internet was one of the final steps.
When they were getting ready to install the wireless access points, when they got over to this particular point, they thought it was like a little bag or something that was stuck on the end of their cable. It looked like maybe somebody put something there to protect it, but it looked like a dirty little bag.
This is what one crew found hanging from the end of the cable.
I didn't know what to think, to be honest with you. It's like, so someone should take down and put the access point up? Should we keep it?
So they weren't sure, so when they climbed up on the ladder, obviously they found that it was a nest with a couple eggs in it.
It turns out the nest was built by a black-chinned hummingbird. The eggs were still a few days away from hatching. Kent Ridgway sent an email asking what to do about it.
Within a couple hours, there are emails flying back and forth and like, hey, this would be really cool if we could get a webcam up there so we can, watch the whole process. And brought it to my boss's attention. He's like, yeah, this is creating some buzz. We should definitely get a webcam up there.
In a matter of a couple days, UITS installed a camera. They got the feed over to our department, and our IT guys got it on our website, and we started kind of promoting it or letting people know.
The 24-hour live feed of the webcam was up and running. It gave us all a view into an unfamiliar world.
The bird actually on the webcam probably looks at least 5 times bigger.
There are other hummingbird cameras, but I've heard this is one of the best views of a nest that a lot of people have seen. I've watched them from a long way away in my yard, but the views from the webcam have been really amazing.
UA staff were some of the first people to start watching, and some watched a lot.
It's been really difficult. I keep a browser up at all times with the camera so I can keep an eye on them. When I come out to use the restroom, I'll make sure I stop by so I can see how they're doing.
I posted it to Facebook, and I have friends all over the world. You can tell I'm English, and there are people who are completely obsessed. I've had texts from people at 5 in the morning who are worried about the hummingbirds.
As the hummingbirds were born and started to grow, so did traffic on the webcam. The live feed was picked up by Wired magazine, but got the most traffic from a UA employee who posted it to Imager, an online image sharing site. At times, there were over 1,000 people tuning in to watch at the same time.
Wife, kids always want to see it. When they wake up in the morning, they want to see it. Family wants to see it. Work, it's it's pretty amazing.
It's been great, but also worrying because nature can be pretty raw, and you're always worried, oh, the eggs aren't going to hatch, the babies are going to fall out, then something's going to happen.
The nest was doing okay, and then it sort of started tilting a little bit, and then a little bit more, and we were getting phone calls apparently from across the country from folks who were worried about the plight of the babies and that they might fall out of the nest.
I think there'll actually be a bit of relief when they've both flown away because we can all get on with our work.
Eventually, after some practice, one of the young birds got up enough courage to leave the nest. One reluctant fledgling remained. Its mother kept coming back and providing food while encouraging this little one to finally leave the nest.
Leaving the nest. There's a lot of link between that and all the parents that are going to be delivering their kids to U of A next week, because there's all these people leaving the nest next week.
This little bird is about to leave all it has ever known and faces an uncertain future. It is a dramatic moment. It's part of the cycle of life that happens millions of times every year all across the world, just not always dangling from a cable. A cable connected to modern technology that allowed over 250,000 people to watch this ancient process unfold.
I think it's absolutely awesome that the Hummingbirds decided to move in before anybody else did.
I think it's significant, and it's also very heartwarming because it's a building that's devoted to the environment. It's a building that is devoted to the science of the environment.
Nature, you know, why did that happen?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I never thought in a million years you'd see something like that, you know?
Is Tucson a business-friendly city? A question very often asked today, and as it turns out, yesterday. In 1988, IBM announced that they'd be cutting 2,800 jobs in Tucson, prompting the mayor, the city council, and community leaders to analyze Tucson's attractiveness to big business, or lack thereof, as we see in this week's From the Vault.
It was a who's who of political and community leaders gathering at the Board of Supervisors meeting room today, hoping that their collective brain power could find a way to lessen the blow from IBM's announced cutback. IBM's move, reducing 2,800 local jobs, has been akin to an economic amputation. The huge multinational was just the kind of industry this area had hoped would be here for the long haul, clean and well-paying. Many in today's meeting indicated that if Tucson is going to fill this void quickly and efficiently, it's got to change the way it does business.
But I do think we ought to be taking a position, both the city and the county, that is more accommodating to these organizations, to make it clear to people who are interested in business, whether they are here now and need a change or whether they're coming here, that we are willing to work with them rather than drive them up a tree.
The former head of the Tucson Economic Development Corporation, which works on a budget of city, county, and private money and tries to lure business to the area, says the no-growth attitude has scared off more than a few companies, including Gates, Motorola, and General Instruments.
I would now ask you to bring this community together, because the business community outside Tucson has gotten some negative vibrations.
But Mayor Tom Volge thinks it's not so much an anti-growth image that's hurting Tucson right now, as much as it is an uncoordinated effort of attracting new business.
And in the absence of that coordinated strategy, people have gone their different ways. What I hope that you're seeing today is truly a spirit of cooperation and an opportunity to develop a real umbrella for these kinds of economic development activities.
Next week, Volge, along with county and congressional representatives, plans a trip to IBM headquarters in New York to brainstorm a means of filling up the empty space at the Tucson IBM site.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. See you next week.